We'll take a look at it. And so control the copy files from this to on the computer.
Okay, so we are gonna do lab 5 today. You need your external drive. You're gonna connect it to your computer. So I have my drive here, and on the drive, you are gonna navigate to find CIS40A VMs. Inside this folder, you would double click and you would find CIS40A server VM. You simply drag this folder onto the desktop or copy paste it to the desktop. We're going to run it from the desktop so that way we can leave the original intact in case we need to go back, bless you, and have a backup. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and copy this to the desktop. While it's doing that, I want to talk a little bit more about DHCP. So we touched on this last week. We kind of see some of the information regarding version 6. You are going to install the role, right, for the server. So when I created the virtual machine, I installed the OS for you, right? But on the OS, there are not services for the server. And as you notice, the server, a lot of the things is the desktop is going to look different. So when you install the OS, you have to make sure that you install the desktop for the server version. They don't always come with that. They can only come with command prompt. But anyways, we are going to create a server role that's going to give out IP addresses to the connecting system, right? And it talked about this here. We are going to have a pool of IP addresses. So if you're following along, you're going to understand, because some of you are going to be like, what am I going to do here? I don't understand why I have it. So last week we talked about exclusion, reservations, right? So we are going to have a group of IP addresses that we're going to give out, right, based on the steps. And then inside those addresses, we might have to exclude some of the addresses that we can use for printers, copier. Those are dedicated shared systems across the network. Now, if we are not going to create reservations are IP addresses that stays the same every time it gets issued, but I can show you where you can do that. But we are going to make a scope that creates a pool of IP address. So once you copy your folder to your desktop, you're going to navigate to your, I have it under lab 5 because I have 2 server versions. You're going to navigate to your folder, open it up, open up the subfolder, and then double click the blue file, okay? But before we start, sorry, I have to remove my machine from the list. Otherwise, it's not going to play. So you can also click add and then navigate to your desktop folder, its subfolder, and then open up the blue file. But before we click start, this is important because otherwise you're just going to wait 10 minutes for the desktop to load and it might not even capture your mouse, right? We are going to click on settings. We're going to change a few things. 1, we are going to change the RAM that it needs for the server. I apologize when I created this, right? I just keep some of the default stuff, or actually only up it a little bit, but you need 8,000 on the RAM. So it's going to go to the general tab, and on the bottom, you're going to clear out this value, 4,048. You're going to type in 8,000. Okay, not 800, 8,000. Now, if you want to give it 10 gig, put 10,000. Your computer has 32,000. So you just have to make sure that you need about 4 to 6 for your host OS, okay? Then you're going to click processor tab, and we're going to make this 4-core, quad core. You can go higher, right? Based on your host system, whatever that it has, you remember you need to keep some for the host OS. So quad core should be okay. If you want 6-core, that's fine. Put 6. Then we're going to go to network. And I put down that you can change this to host only. But ideally, if you want to segregate your network to do the test, So when we install the DHCP, before we roll it out, we should always test it with other systems, like we can connect it into the internal network. So if you want to build your own home lab, right, you can create multiple virtual machine where you're gonna click network tab on the left where it says net right here. You're gonna click the drop down and you are going to select internal network. The reason why I do this is I don't want to broadcast IP to the rest of the network, right? Because I might not be able to test the system effectively, then I might need to change my scope. So it's a good way if you want to build like your lab to be able to do the test. So click internal network. And if you can't click this for some reason, sometime that happens because of the app, right? Make sure that you're on adapter 1 and then click the net option and change it to internal network. So what's the difference? If you do host only adapter, it's going to use your host OS configure adapter, which is your network adapter that is seen by the OS on the outside. You still should be able to connect to the network that way. And it might still be broadcasting. Network address translation just basically tie your internal virtual machine address and it translated to your host IP and send that out so you can still get connected to the network. So there are many different options here. So we're going to choose internal network. Okay. So that way I don't want the network people from RCCD to complain, oh, your class was broadcasting IP. We don't want that to happen. All right. Then we're gonna click OK. And then once you have the RAM, the core, and the network configuration, you click start. So what did I do, right? I had loaded my virtual machine. I didn't add this in, but I will modify this to make sure that you change the setting. But when you use my 2022 VM, it has more RAM and it has more core to start, and it has more drive space to start. So we're gonna start using that for the subsequent lab with server. Now, when you see this message, just click the prompt to close. So click the X on the right side, not to close the virtual machine, but the prompt. You're gonna notice that if you press Control-Alt-Delete, it's actually controlling the outside host machine. So you are going to click Input at the top. Okay, what step am I doing? I'm doing step 6. Okay, so once my machine has launched, click Input, and you see the desktop like this. You are going to go keyboard, and then you're gonna do Insert Alt Delete. You see that at the top? We're gonna click Input menu at the top, keyboard, and then insert Control Alt Delete. Yes.
For network, only options, NAT and bridge adapter.
Yes, just you can select bridge adapter. I don't know. I think what it is the profile that it uses on the app. I saw that last Friday too, so that's okay. Yeah, so you can try advanced option. I don't know why it's that version is different than some of the version here. I'll talk to Caesar tomorrow. Okay, so once we have press input, keyboard, Control-Alt-Delete, you're gonna see the administrator login screen, right? And yeah, it is gonna be a little slow, so be patient with it for today, right? No. It's like that for everybody. Okay, so it is laggy and sometimes you are gonna have issue with capturing mouse and keyboard because the server itself is not the ISO, I guess, maybe it's not configured as is to be kind of like what you see with Windows 10. So we're gonna type in the password and your password is seen on step 7. All cap locks. 40A. Okay, so once you type it, I know it's gonna be slightly slower than usual. Okay, now the first thing that you need to do once your desktop is loaded, you're gonna see a server manager. Server OS is gonna be like that. It's gonna give you an area where you can take a look at all your services. And if you don't have any services started, this is where you're gonna start. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put in a static permanent IP address. Our server IP address don't change because if it changes, the other system cannot be connecting to it. So you are going to wait for your server manager to load, okay? And it's gonna take a minute or so for it to go. It's gonna show up like the screenshot that I show you there. And you're gonna see a link in the middle where it says IPv4 address assigned by DHCP. So by default, it's obtaining an IP address from somewhere else. What we're gonna do is we're gonna change that to a static IP, an IP that we are using for this particular server. Okay? So here's my server manager. It's gonna give me this little prompt. You can click X to close, and yes, be patient with the cursor because I think the driver for the mouse on this is a little laggy. If I can get it to close. Okay. So on the left, you are going to click local server right here, right? Once you close that prompt, this is your server manager. You're going to click local server. And once this opens up, you're going to see there's your IP address assigned. So we have to click local server on the left, and then the link where it says Ethernet. We're going to click IPv4 address assigned. Click that. Okay. So let's logically think about your IP address here. Okay. I used to go through, write down all the IP addresses on the boxes or the case of the thing for the student in the past. And I said, you know what? They need to apply the concept. So let's talk about this, right? So you are once you have this open, you're gonna open up the properties of the adapter. We saw this in Windows 10 when we did like lab 3, right? So we're gonna double click this and we're gonna click on properties. Okay. So in the properties, you're gonna click version 4 and then click the properties button. Now, if you want to use static IP, you are going to select the radio button below, this one. And you're going to type in the IP address here, okay? Now, I want you to use a class B address, 172.16.0, and you can go lower. I don't mind if you go lower. I only put this right here so you can control your pool. But what we're going to do is we are going to start, let's go lower a little bit, right? So you can select any value in between this, but don't do like 251. Don't do that, okay? Because then you don't have a pool and you have to go in reverse for your pool. That's not good, okay? So let's change this. So I'm going to make you do 10 to 50, okay? And if you use a high number, that's okay. So here we go. We're going to do 172. Type that in, .16. And as you type in your value, you can type the dot as period, right? .0. And for today, we are going to use, you can use a higher value, but let's use between 10 to 50. 11, 29, 32, whatever you want on the last octet, okay? So I'm going to use 13. And don't use 13, use something else, right? You have a scope. That's, a big range to use. So that's this last octet is going to be unique to your own server, right? So you can use 13, you can use 29, you can use 42, whatever you want. then you're just gonna click on the subnet mask and it's gonna fill out the subnet mask for the default class B. Okay, any question? All right, so in practice, the server should be in maybe the earlier host values right here, the last octet. These are gonna be the dedicated value for your network, that's for server. So I know 13.13, that system is for DHCP. Maybe 14 is gonna be a different system for the DNS. And 15, subsequently you might have physical different server for different services and different role, right? Each of these things are holding a different role. It's kind of like you have two parents, one's a father, one's a mother, right? And they have different tasks, right? So this particular server we're setting up is going to give out IP addresses to the rest of the network. And on the physical system, right, this is going to be a .13. So your default gateway, we are going to have the same first 3 octets, so 172.16.0, but the last octet is going to be a .1. That's going to be your router IP, right? Which is the first system that we see coming in from the public network. So it's a .1. Okay, everybody got that so far? So where am I at on the lab here? I am at step 11. I put in my default gateway. Why is it a .1? It's the router, which is what we see first when we're entering our network. At this point, we are going to add our DNS, okay? Now, I'm going to use the same IP address as my static IP address here. So we're going to do 172.16.0.13. So whatever your IP address here, you're going to repeat that in the DNS. Why? Because now I have the DNS and the DHCP on the same system, okay? It's like having a single parent, right? If let's say you have a single parent, your mother is also playing a role of your father sometimes, like she teaches you how to drive or, doing other things. So you can have a server that holds multiple roles. That means that on this physical system, one system, it's doing 2 jobs, right? Okay, so that should help you answer the questions that's on the lab. Okay, so take a screenshot. What class of IP address? We should know this from doing last week, and I just talked about the class. Why do we use the IP address as the preferred DNS server IP address? Well, because if it's one physical system that is functioning as a DHCP and a DNS, then it's the same IP address, right? Okay. So we're going to click OK. And it's going to take a second to register to the system there. And we're going to close the property sheet. And you're going to see the update here as you put in the IP address information. Okay. Now, once I have the static IP, then I can go. But if I don't have the static IP set up, right, it might not change immediately. If you want, you can also reboot. Let me see. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add the server role. So once that's done, I'm gonna click dashboard on the left. I know some of you already got this going, but I'm gonna double check. Give me a second. Now, we're not configuring IPv6 in this particular lab but we are going to create a pool for IPv6. Okay, so I have everything set up. Take a screenshot and then paste that to your lab. And then close your property sheet and wait for it to update. Okay, you see that here now? Okay, so now I see my IP updated. I'm going to click the dashboard on the top left to go back to the server manager original screen that we saw when it first loaded. So if you want to go and install the role, you just need to go to the server manager and the dashboard. Now, what if you don't see this here? You can also click on tools on the top right and click server manager. Okay. So once that happens, you are going to click add roles and feature, which is number 2 on the right side in the middle. So yeah, mouse capture on the server. So I'm gonna fix that with the newer version, hopefully.
Yeah. What's this?
So click add roles and feature, right? Remember that we have to click dashboard on the left, click add roles and feature. And it's gonna give you the wizard to walk you through. So it tells me that I need to have an admin account with strong password. I need to have a static IP, which I have both of those. And then it tells me that I need to do security updates. Okay. Yes, I know. Okay, we're going to click next. And we're going to see role-based feature selected. We're going to keep that default settings. And we're going to click next or press enter. Okay, if you press enter, it's probably faster. All right. Since you only have one system that's recognized on the network, it's going to identify that. So now by practice, you should name your server a certain name and restart after you create a static IP address, right? But this is the default name of your system. So once we promote it to the DNS, you're going to see that it is going to, it's going to add this name and the domain information. But now this is the system that has this IP address. You can just press enter or click next. Okay. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that we select the checkbox where it says DHCP server. In real life, technically, I normally do DNS and DHCP together, right?
Easier to use.
But today, because of the time and the lab requirement, I'm only going to want you to do DHCP. So we're just going to select DHCP. So click that. And it's going to add all of these tools for the DHCP. And the tools is going to be added on the top right. See you later.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to click add features. And we're going to proceed with next. It's going to be default adding .NET framework. This is part of the Windows environment. Press enter or click next. Okay. So here's the answer to the question for the next step. It says, things to know. You should configure at least one static IP address on this computer, which we did at the beginning. Before you install DHCP, you should plan subnets, scope, and store the plan in the same place, right? So that way people don't just know your scope. So that should help you answer the question on your lab. It says, before you install DHCP on step 20, what should you include in the plan? We should include, right? You should see that here. Subnets and scopes and exclusion. So that means that the number of subnetworks that we need, right? The scope just means the pool, the group IP addresses that we give out to those subnets. And the exclusion, the IP address that we want to keep for our shared system, like copier, printer, other servers.
Yeah, basically. So,
Okay, and then we're going to click next.
Yeah,
And you are going to click install. It says, do you need to make an alternate path? You don't need that, so you can click install. And this process should take a few minutes. When you see your blue bar, it's
Yeah.
full and it tells you that it succeeded, then you can close that install option, right? Just wait for it for a few minutes. Okay,
Then you can do this question.
any question? Need any help? Okay, so
No, there's more.
keep in mind that the server machine, it needs more hardware. So you need to make sure that you have more RAM before you start it, and you need to have more processor series,
Files.
right? At least a quad core with 8 gig.
File.
That's the minimal, right?
Talking.
So if you buy cloud instance, a lot of the time, if it's free, it's very slow. Minimal processor, minimal RAM. If you pay a little bit more, you get more hardware, right? Just like how everything, you pay for what you get. So you have to keep in mind the server machine needs the processing power and the RAM to have these services. Okay. Sorry, I need to redo this part. I don't know why. Maybe I clicked something by accident when I pressed the keyboard. Okay, so when you're done, you're gonna make a scope. So remember that I put here, if your IP address is 172.16.0.23, you can create a pool of IP address in a later range, like 50 to 70. This is gonna give me 20 systems, right? So we can create a range that's gonna give me more or less computers that I need. So if I need 100, I would go 50 to 150. So what is the maximum number right here? 254, right? So your scope needs to be fulfilling however many systems that you plan to have connected to your network, right? This number, take this number, subtract this number, and you would know the number of systems. Hi,
Bye.
did you need to borrow a drive? Or are you okay?
No, I looked over the assignment. I'll get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or you can ask. Yeah.
We're almost done. This is a short lab, so
Yeah, transfer that one.
I want you to know how. So upon finishing this lab, what can you do, right? You can say that you can install and configure DHCP server and its scope.
Yes, this one right here, so. So 2 views for the other labs, so this is the current one, and this is the other one is used for the other lab. That's part of the lab. So this is the one where the view. Yeah, yeah, this is the one we're doing right now. We'll go for server. This one's just something we're doing. Let's talk to you. No, it's for the piece. All right. You can see if you're on the super. Pull over your tape.
It's running out of our.
Yeah, well, I'll look at classes. The signs.
For some reason, the version slow on also does that, but yeah, it's pretty good. That's only fine. What's up? Yeah, something similar happens to another student. I mean, for some reason, the version is 0. Not 0. How much time is
I want to type in some kind of ID. That way.
So shut it down.
Better for it to go,
The film.
like I said, how we keep it.
See, actually, I
Yeah, that's good.
One of my-
not even copy on that. That was something that happened to Friday class.
I can give it to you, but. Better for you to do, not so you can actually pick your role.
Yeah, so you have to put input, then in, yeah,
I'm having the same problem. I'm clicking that and it doesn't do anything.
Did you give more RAM on your virtual machine?
Yes.
Say files.
Yeah. Did you click on here? And then type?
That's very long. Yeah.
Okay, so when you see succeeded like this, close your install prompt. Now the tools that you need, so every role that you add, it's gonna add the management console under tools. So when all else fail, if you ever need to manage your server, if it's installed, the roles tools are gonna be in the tools menu. So click tools. And this is DHCP. Don't click the DHCP on the left side of the dashboard. No, because that just gives you the state of your DHCP. Click on tools and click DHCP, right? So later on, when we add DNS, you're gonna see the management console here and so on. So every role that you add, it's gonna add the tools there. That's the feature that you added. Okay, so now I see my management console like this. You can drag the column a little bit to the right so you can see your server. And you can expand it by clicking the arrow next to its name. And here's the IPv4. So first we're gonna make a scope. And when you click on it, you need to go to what's going on up here.
So I'm just gonna do it again. I don't know.
See?
What are you clicking on?
How much RAM do you have on your computer?
I don't know.
Okay. You can go on the settings and system mode. Have settings. It should be about system or system. That's Windows 11. If you scroll down to the bottom, you should see about.
Okay.
Click on that and should be. So if your system is slow like that, that means that it's not able to accommodate the 8,000 plus your host, your OS that you're looking at right now needs at least 4. It's 3.96 to be exact of RAM. So if you have only like 8 gig and you give your virtual machine 8 gig, then your host doesn't have anything left. You know what I mean?
It says 16.
16. So it should be accommodating both, but then also how many core do you have? Your processor. Okay. Intel 4, 1.3. And then Ultra 5. Let me Google it real quick.
This list, the addresses.
Yeah, so you should have, okay, your performance core is 4. Efficient is 8. The way that it looks at is the 14 core. So you should be able to accommodate. So technically you can have 4 efficient core and 4 performance core. So yeah, so 4 core should be okay. Your VM is gonna be a little laggy like that. It's gonna be slow, just mine was like that at the beginning, so you have to be
It
patient
just,
with
it
it.
wouldn't do the administrator.
To type in the password.
It goes me just to the student, they won't go administrator.
Okay, boot it again and then call me when you get to that
I
section.
should do it right here.
Mhm. Did you start it? Let's start. Okay, so for those of you who are making this scope, click on IPv4, right click, new scope. Go next. And then you can name this anything like scope 1. Sometime people would name it like HQ, location, whatever you want there, right? So I'm gonna just call it scope 1. And you can specify the description. We're gonna go next. Okay, so let's talk about IP. Let's be clear here, right? I put down that if this is your IP address, you need that. So let's say I need 100 computers. Okay, I need to have an IP address group for 100 computer. So 172.16.0. Let's say that I want to start at 50. I need to go up to the last octet should be 100, right? I'm sorry, 150 to give me 100 IP addresses that's usable. But what if I want to go to the end of the range? What if I wanted to go to 250 or 254? So if I go to 250, that gives me 200 usable IP, right? So you really need to determine what is, oh, you're on the wrong VM. This is Windows 10.
Yeah.
You have to use the server VM. So that's fine. Copied it already.
We're trying to see. So
This is the last one.
so, like I said, when we do my lab,
Right in.
make sure we go
And you
through
get to copy the server
Step by
VM,
step.
not that. The instructions.
both sides of the VM will be working fine.
So on the drive, right? You're gonna see server CIS40A VM. Find the server VM and copy that folder. Okay. Yeah, that's why you don't have the right account. Okay, everybody got that? Right? If I go 254, why can't I have 255? Well, 255 is not usable, right? We talked about that last week. So I can go to 254. That gives me how many systems? Nobody knows? And nobody cares? So if I have dot 254, I take 254, subtract 50. I have how many systems? 204, right? So it's really how many systems you need IP addresses for, right? So can I grow the scope? Well, normally we can create a scope and we can plan to grow the scope. We should have some room. You can go and edit your scope for sure, yes. Right? It's just a pool of addresses that it's gonna pull to give out to the other systems. Okay, we're okay with that? So you can choose however many systems that you want to give out IP to there and then go next. Now here's the exclusion, right? Out of those IP address, which one you're not going to give out, right? Remember, I have 50 to 254, right? In the last one, I have 50 to 254. Let's say that I wanted to keep 51, 52, 51 to 55 or one of those addresses for a certain dedicated system. So I can add that here. So 172.16.0.51. Let's say I wanted to keep a few of those. 172.16.0.55, let's say. So I can add these into the exclusion list so that way those don't get given out. Understand? Okay, so those are going to be excluded when it's distributing the IP address. And then we're going to go next. How many days are you giving out your IP for? Most administrator is gonna give it 30 days or 60 days. Did you copy?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Open that up.
Yeah. Just keep
Um,
it out of the-
Just delete this one. And then delete the log file. Which is so much. Let's click it again. And we'll put the blue file. And then here, make sure you change settings. And then go here and give it 8,000. And then change your processor. Processor tab.
What's good, like,
4, number 4. Okay, so put in, so I would, let's say that I wanted to keep it for 60 days, right? Give out IP addresses, each IP lasts 60 days. And you can put 30 days, 90 days, depends on the administrator. We're gonna go next. So if you have many systems and you're reusing address regularly, then your lease is shorter, right? Like, let's say that if I shut down a Google computers for a week or two, those IP addresses, if they don't use for 30 days, that gets back in the fold for other use. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and click next to proceed for the options. And here is gonna be your default gateway. Remember, it's a .1. So 172.16.0.1, and you're gonna add it. So if I have other default gateway, other router, I would add that there. See you.
again?
And then add your I'm sorry. Yeah. Click next. Now, we don't have a DNS yet, right? But if you do, this is where you're gonna add you're welcome, FUDN, like, for example, mycompany.net, etc. But if you don't have DNS, you can leave that blank. Remember that the preferred DNS information that we put in earlier, it's gonna automatically bring here. And we're gonna go next. So if you follow the steps, right, it's gonna walk you through the router IP that I added, the parent domain name. It's basically, we're just gonna click next. And then you can put in the Win server. So if you have other systems that serve as your WINS, then you would put in its IP here. You don't have to add anything, or you can add itself here, but I'm just gonna leave it blank, right? And then I'm gonna proceed with next. And I'm gonna activate the scope. So once I make a range of IP, I can activate it to give it out, right? And then go next and finish. So now if you expand it, you have a scope. If you look at scope option, there it is, right? It tells you exactly that's your router, right? That's your DNS. And then if you look at the pool, that's the pool that you give it, how many IP that's gonna give, and that's how you configure the scope for IP in DHCP. Okay. Pretty easy. Microsoft makes it very easy for you to kind of walk through. You just have to know how to plan these things. And then you can also control policy with this too. But I had set, so take a screenshot once you get to that part, look at your address pool and look at your scope options. Okay, so we can make rules, right, for our IP addresses, especially if you have like remote access user, etc. So you can play with it more. So this is just the tip of the iceberg for the CPX. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what is your IP address? What's your IP address? Snakes.
Don't you have a sheet in there, basically?
Okay.
Well, basically, we're just making.
Why don't you pull this down and then look at your IP addresses on your dashboard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Go to your local server. Well, it shows the number there. What is it?
Go back to those. Yeah.
Okay, you see how it's 200? But you're giving out the range before the 200, so should configure that as a .20.
Yeah.
Yeah, change it back to 20 and then you can give out 40 to 50, something like that. You understand? We don't want your server to be at the end and then everything else before it.
And the IP that's already.
You're gonna change it there, you're gonna change it on the
That's
bottom.
already
too.
in your.
Okay? Yeah. And then click OK. And then go in and reconfigure that. So. You don't right click, you just left click.
Oh, shoot.
Well, and then double click.
Configuration with it again.
Double click. Yeah, double click. I try to get everybody done so you don't have to worry about doing it outside, because when you get home, you have to install VirtualBox, and then if your system doesn't have the RAM accommodation, then it creates more problem, and then you have delays. Okay, we got that? You've configured your static IP. Okay, so when you go, so the instruction tells you, if you go here, right, this is the screen that you see. So on the left, you need to click, it tells you click local server, tap on the left, and then click the link as the arrow pointed. So just follow the screenshot. Okay, for those of you who got the scope done, right? What we're gonna do after that is we are going to, if the highlighted steps, you can skip those. So take a screenshot. Then you're gonna do the IP version 6. You're gonna make a scope for that. So we're gonna put in the prefix, and you already know the double colon, what that means, right? And you're gonna make a lease for IPv6 for 50 days. Okay, so, and then you're done after that. So IPv6, right click, new scope, next. And we can call this scope to go next. So the prefix, what do you want to put in for your prefix with the /64? We're going to do 2603 double colon, right? And we don't have any preference, so go next. And the starting IP address, you can, so I put in an arbitrary number here, but you can just have it, it automatically generates it too. So you can do 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we can go next. We don't exclude anything, so we're gonna go next, and then we're gonna do 50 days and go next, and then finish. So at this point, I have a scope 2, and my address lease information might not also list, but the scope option. So V6 is somewhat only like the beginning stage, but what we can do is, so I need for you to screenshot that, and that would show that you know how to start making the second scope. Okay. And then answer the question, make sure we looked at, what did you learn about this lab? Right, server needs more hardware for you to be able to navigate through it. Next, how to be able to install DHCP with using the server manager option. And then also to create your scope in version 4 and version 6. And also making static IP address input. Save and submit. Make sure we shut down the server. Return the drive. If you're done.
Bye.
Okay. 140.
Finish it.
Okay, good. You're doing good.
Now,
It's okay.
66. Go.
Anybody need help or have questions? Okay, so when you're done, close everything, be nice to your virtual machine, shut it down, click Windows, shut down, but you have to tell it why you're shutting down, because server, we don't shut it down, right? So you have to select the option and you can say, you know, like maybe other or software. Okay, so you have to follow the same op-text. So it tells you to do this. So we need to enter it like that. So clear that out and you do it again. Is it normal for us to shut down? If it crashed, sometime. It's okay. Is it at the end?
Because they usually don't.
You're on the last step? Okay. Yeah, just turn it on again. Click start.
Got it. Right. Okay, go ahead.
Probably try to do some auto updates.
What's the reason, right? Never seen it. But the drop. Other planes.
You gave it warning? Okay, that's fine. All right, let's close it.
Stop.
Okay, first, click OK here and you gotta close the active process. So we think it works with that. Did you copy it to your desktop? Okay.
It's on my laptop. I think I have to hand it over a couple of or so.
So let's go to
That's good. Got a piece of that might be a base.
Go to your folder. Let me stop my recording. It's just gonna, I'm done. And then I'll be right with you.